Devaki Nandana Gopala.
O Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala.
Bolo Radhe Ramana Hari Bol.
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 Hari Bol Govinda Govinda Gopala.
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 Jai Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopala. Jai Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopala. Hari Bol Govinda Govinda Gopala.
Hari Bol Govinda Govinda Gopala.
Hari Bol Govinda Govinda Gopala.
Hari Bol Govinda Govinda Gopala.
Bolo Radhe Ramana Hari Bol.
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 Hari Bol Govinda Govinda Gopala.
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 Jai Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Gopala.
Jai Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Gopala.
Hari Bol 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 Govinda Govinda Gopala.
Gopala Gopala Devaki Nandana 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 Gopala.
Hari Bol. Gopala Gopala Devaki Nandana Gopala.
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 One more time. Gopala Gopala Devaki Nandana Gopala.
Gopala Devaki Nandana Gopala.
Gopala 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 Gopala Devaki Nandana Gopala.
Welcome to Satsang, and thanks so much for such a beautiful, bhakti-filled, bliss-filled kirtan. before you can properly play a musical instrument, if you were going to be having an orchestra, before you could have an orchestra that was in tune and that really was music rather than just noise and sounds, you have to tune the instruments, right? Each of the players, whether it's a piano, a tuba, a guitar, whatever it may be, they all take a few minutes and make sure the instruments are in tune and get them in tune. Even though, as I always wondered, didn't they tune them last night? Nonetheless, it seems that even from one night to the next, they need to be tuned. And the beautiful experience of chanting kirtan before we have satsang, it tunes us. It's not just something that we do before satsang starts. It's actually that which tunes us to be open to that presence of truth. It expands our hearts in such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way that truth goes down a lot easier, rather even comes up a lot easier when we are rooted in hearts that are full of love. So thank you all. Yeah. So before I take a question that came in advance, which is how we usually start, I have a very special young friend who told me that he had a question, and I told him that he could ask it in satsang. So if he's feeling up to asking his question, we could start with it. What do you think? Maybe you could use Dad's mic. He has 2 questions. Okay. Maybe you could bring your mic and come sit with me here. Will your mic stretch that far? Good. Sajjan, come. Yeah, there. That's very good. Okay. Now you can ask your question.
Sadhviji, have you ever helped someone with spilling suffering?
Have I ever helped someone with?
Spilling suffering.
Spilling suffering. Like their suffering is spilling over because it's so much?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, spilling suffering. I love that. Has anybody else ever had suffering that felt like it was just spilling? That's beautiful. Yeah. It is sometimes like spilling suffering. Okay. So here's the beautiful thing. You can put it down for right now. No one will take it. You can ask your second question after. Here's the thing. That which causes suffering is what we think of and speak of as ignorance. Now, it has to be an ignorance in the heart, not just an ignorance in the mind. So it's not the same type of ignorance like you get the wrong answer on a history test or a math test, but an ignorance that's deeper, and it's an ignorance that says, for example, I'm all alone. Or an ignorance that says, no one loves me. Or an ignorance that says, nothing is going right. Or an ignorance that says, it's not fair. Those sorts of ignorances are the ones that lead to suffering. Now, at the foundation of all of it, is the ignorance that says that you are separate from this beautiful, amazing existence. And so, for example, if you knew that all day long you were sitting in mom's lap or in dad's lap all day long, and they were just hugging you like this all day long, you'd never suffer. Right? Obviously. And as we grow older and as we suffer, it's not so much about sitting in our mother or our father's lap. It's about realizing that we're actually sitting in God's lap. And when we don't know that, we feel all alone and we feel very scared. Now, we may think that we feel scared because in grown-up stress, suffering, spilling suffering, we think, oh my God, what kind of job am I going to get? Or, oh my God, am I going to make enough money? Or, oh my God, what about that person I'm in competition with? Or, oh my God, we think about it like that, but that isn't really true. It's really caused because we forget. That's why it's ignorance. We forget that we are sitting in God's lap. And so we feel alone, we feel separate, and then we start feeling like we're less than. We look at other people and we say, oh, they're so much smarter than I am. They're so much handsomer than I am. They're so much richer than I am, or stronger than I am, or better than I am. And we feel very less about ourselves, or we feel like it's not fair, and then we suffer. But when we realize that we are sitting in God's lap, when we realize that we have everything. I mean, when you're in mom's lap or dad's lap, right? It's all there. There's nothing you need that isn't there. In the same way, when we realize we're sitting in God's lap and everything is there, then that suffering heals. And so it's not about me healing their suffering. It's about me being also very, very blessed to just be used by God, like you use this microphone, to be used by God to help people realize that they are sitting in God's lap. I don't have to put people there. They're already there.
They just have to realize.
They just have to realize it. Exactly. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. Did you have another question?
Yes, but it's a bit of a scientific one.
Oh. He said, for those of you who didn't hear without the mic on, he said, yes, but it's a bit of a scientific one. We are ready.
Are your memories in your subconsciousness?
Aha, great. Okay. Are your memories in your subconsciousness? Our memories are in subconscious, but they're also in conscious. So, what did you have for lunch today?
I had butter mashed and roti and rice.
Okay. Now, I didn't have to hypnotize you for you to remember that, did I? And what did you have for breakfast?
I had a cookie cereal with milk.
Oh. Not from Ram Krishanji, I assume. You got that someplace else, no? Okay, so, point is, you remember. Those memories are in your conscious mind. If something is subconscious, it's below the surface. which would mean if something were in your subconscious, we would have to work to get to it. Maybe I would have to hypnotize you, or maybe we would have to go very deep into a meditation together. There's a lot of different techniques that would make you remember that, but it wouldn't be that easy. So memories, some of them are conscious. There's many, many, many questions I could ask you that you would remember immediately. Conscious memories. But then there's some memories that we don't remember consciously, but that sit in our subconscious. And those tend to be the sorts of memories from when we were very young, like your age or even younger. And when things happen in our lives that create the way we think. And so let's say, for example, that someone was not as lucky as you and not as fortunate as you are to have such a loving, wonderful family and have everything that you need. But let's say maybe someone when they were your age, their parents were very mean and maybe they hit them. Maybe they hurt them very badly. And maybe they said very mean things to them. Now, you can't even imagine that because you have such wonderful parents. But sometimes, tragically, it does happen. Now, if that happens, at the time they remember it. But then, as life goes on, they stop remembering it because it's very painful. It hurts. But then, as they get older, and they feel very depressed, or they don't have good friendships, or they don't have people who love them, and they don't know how to love other people. That's going to be because in their subconscious, that they're not even aware of, they feel like they are not good enough. They feel like they are not worthy of love because nobody gave them love then. And if somebody tells you, you're bad, you're stupid, you're worthless, or just hits you so that you feel bad and worthless and horrible, no matter how hard you try, they hurt you, then inside you, you think, oh, I must be bad. There's nothing I can do that's good enough. And that goes into my subconscious. And then in my life, I keep living and acting like that because it's what I believe. And that's why it's so important to see what's in our subconscious, to bring it conscious, so that we can look at it.
Or remember it.
Or to remember it, exactly. If we can make you remember it, then we can look at it. It's like, have you ever had a bad boo-boo and your mom or dad put a Band-Aid on it?
Well, I did scrape a bit of skin off my knee.
Okay, so sometimes when we get a boo-boo, and like on your knee, first we cover it because it's a wound and we have to protect it in the very beginning. But then, once it's been protected for a little while, it's actually very important to open it and to give it some fresh air, maybe even some sunshine, so that it can dry up in there and can heal properly. You don't want to keep it all the time, otherwise then the skin never heals if it doesn't get any air. And the same thing happens in our hearts. When we get hurt like that in the very beginning, especially if we're children, we cover it all up like that because it's very, very painful and very hurtful. But then as we grow, you don't want to keep it all the time covered up like that because then it can't heal. And then it gets all like, when skin has been wet for too long and it's all wrinkly and you can't really feel anything and the color's all bad and stuff. Then it becomes like that in our hearts. And so you want to open it up and give it air and give it light. And that's what we call remembering. And then we can look at it and it can heal and we can heal it. So that's when we bring things from subconscious to conscious, is when we remember them. Does that make sense? Yes? Any other questions? Not for tonight. Great. Well, thank you. Are there any other questions that anyone else here has? Yes.
Hi.
You can give them the mic also.
In the West, as yoga teachers, there's a lot of talk about cultural appropriation.
About cultural
Appropriation.
appropriation, uh-huh.
And
Is there a mic you can give him?
Cordless? No.
Either way, whatever you've got.
speak louder.
Okay. Thank you.
And I know in my path in yoga, it started out very physical, and obviously being here with Felipe and Deb for like 3 years now, it's a big part of my life. And as a teacher, there's lots of other teachers out there, like if you're wearing a mala, or if you're taking a picture in a yoga pose, or if you're saying namaste, period, is cultural appropriation. And for me, like yoga is a universal thing for all of us. I know my own answer. I know my own dharma and what I was meant to do. But I kind of need more clarity because I start to hurt when people are constantly saying, like, this is what you're supposed to do. And it's like, we have our own religions, we'll practice it our own way,
Yes.
as long as we're doing it out of love and service and to God. To me, we're doing our own dharma.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I feel really, I don't feel bad about what I'm doing, but people are making me feel bad because something that I love to do, it just keeps coming back, and it's like, you should do this and you shouldn't do this.
And the shoulds that you're being told are what?
The should.
Yeah, so when you say they're telling you that if you do yoga, you should be also doing, what are the shoulds they're telling you?
I mean, there's just so many different things. I mean, it's really more of like what you shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
And there's so many different types of yogas, just like religions. And for me, it's
And what
like,
are they saying you shouldn't be doing?
like saying namaste at all, or
Got it.
like I said,
Okay.
taking
I understand.
pictures or whatever it is.
I
There's
understand what you're
a
saying.
billion things.
Okay.
Thank you.
I wanted to make sure I understood properly which way you were asking the question. So, if we study yoga, and we love yoga, and there are pieces of the culture that feel very real and meaningful to us, like saying namaste, or like using mala beads, or even having a picture of ourselves in a yoga pose. But are those things that we shouldn't be doing unless we are full-fledged Hindu Indians? Is it cultural appropriation otherwise? Can you maintain your own religion and still say namaste and use mala beads and other aspects of yoga without feeling badly? Of course. Of course. Look, just as many people who point the finger that way point it the other way, which is why I wasn't sure which way you were asking. Because, of course, as many people as who say, oh, you shouldn't appropriate these aspects of the culture, are people who say, well, it's not really yoga unless you say namaste and use mala beads and all of that. So it's people everywhere are tragically, and it's not by any means only in the world of yoga. What's tragic is that it is also in the world of yoga. We expect it in some other areas. We would like not to expect it in the world of yoga. But here's the thing. Yoga comes out of a religious tradition that is called Sanatana Dharma. Okay? I'm not going to go into a full history here, but the word Hindu is not a word given to the religion actually by the practicers of it. Okay? It's a word that was given about the people of an Indus Valley civilization who lived on the banks of the Sindhu River by people who couldn't say S and so who said H, or in India they say H. So they said Hindu instead of Sindhu. And so the people on the banks of the Sindhu River became the Hindus. Sanatan Dharma literally means an eternal way of life. Now, if it's eternal by time, no beginning, no end, it also has to be eternal by space. If something is really eternal, it doesn't just mean it exists right here in this square foot of space from beginning to end. If it's really eternal, it's an omnipresent, never born, never dies, ever present, everywhere way of life, Dharma. Now, that is not about where you were born. It is not about the color of your skin. It is not about which name or form you worship the divine in. But it is about some very core truths. Now, if you asked 10 Hindus what are the core tenets of Hinduism, you'd get 10 different answers, which is the beauty of the Hindu tradition. But there are some that are pretty much always agreed upon that have to do, for example, with the idea of the presence of the divine in the creation. And so in all of our worship ceremonies, for example, when we offer the 5 elements, right, all of the pujas have fire, earth, typically in the form of flowers, air and ether, so you've got incense and you've frequently got, the waving of and water. Why do we offer the 5 elements? Because everything is made of the 5 elements, and it's a way of reminding us it's not that God needs our flowers, God gave us the flowers. It's not that God needs the water, God gave us the water. We offer them to remind us, oh yeah, these elements are sacred. Which then, of course, means, oh yeah, everything is sacred. So that's a pretty universally agreed upon core tenet of Sanatan Dharma. Another is that there are an innumerable different ways to worship God. Non-violence, truthfulness, right? You look at the yamas and the niyamas of yoga, they could pretty much be the 10 commandments of Sanatan Dharma. Now, I mention that right here because to use prayer beads, mala, to say namaste, namaste literally means the divine in me bows to the divine in you. That is beautiful. But it requires a belief, that the core of who I am is divine, and also that the core of who you are is divine, which means by default that you and I are one. If what's inside me is the same as what's inside you, which is the divine, which is infinite, then we must be one. If you believe, subscribe to, are committed to these tenets, these truths, by all means incorporate them in your life. But don't let them be accessories. And that's an important distinction between, I would say, the cultural appropriation and the embrace of a culture that really is universal. If it speaks to you in truth, and it is a truth that you will live and walk, whether you are Christian or Jewish or Muslim or atheist or agnostic, whatever you may be. Because these tenets, of course, apply. It doesn't matter what your religion is. There's no tenet of Sanatana Dharma that says thou shalt worship the divine by this name or this form or this way. But there does have to be, if you're going to use them. So for example, our mala beads are used to take the name of God. So if taking the name of God on prayer beads speaks to you, use them. If when you say namaste, you are connecting the divine within you to the divine within that person, either successfully or in an attempt to be successful. It's not that you have to be there before you can use it. By doing it, it reminds us. That's wonderful. But if yoga is just physical exercise for you, and it's just about a trend, and it's just about being in shape, and there's no internal connection within you to the truth of a tradition that says it's all God, it's all sacred, it's why I bow to it all. I mean, we bow to the trees, we bow to the tulsi plant before we pluck a leaf. We don't pluck flowers in the night because they're sleeping. Really? Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly beautiful, tiny little aspects of the culture. If they speak to you, absolutely. Use them, embrace them, appropriate them. No problem, make them yours. It is a universal tradition. But there also is a tendency to use them simply as accessories. Try to avoid that because it's not in the service of your truth. Whether it's mala beads as an accessory or diamond earrings as an accessory. Either way, if it's only about a statement, this is cool, this is trendy, this will make you like me more, this will make you think I am more of something, don't do it. Either way, because it's not in your truth. So make sure that whatever aspects you're using are part of your truth, and then by all means, every Hindu text gives you permission. Because there's nowhere that says, in order to do this, you must first believe that, other than these core concepts. If you are really able to take all 10 of the yamas and the niyamas, if that's the beginning and end of Sanatana Dharma spiritual philosophy that you know, but you can really live them on the deepest, corest, fullest level, then it's a practice of yoga. And yoga's union. And if mala beads help you unite, fantastic. If bowing to the divine in others with namaste helps you unite and remember rather than, high-fiving, fantastic. Great. Yeah. I'm going to bring satsang to a close a little bit earlier this evening, rather than taking one more question, because each Thursday evening at 8, we have a beautiful tradition here at Parmarth Niketan where we gather with Puja Swamiji right here in our beautiful Rishi Kumars for half an hour, where they chant beautiful mantras and we meditate together. And if you know the mantras, you chant. If not, you just listen to them chant and meditate. And so I just want to make sure that everyone who's joining us there has plenty of time to have dinner and to get back by 8. And that is, of course, by the way, open to anyone who would like to to join us. So that's each Thursday evening we sit here with him. So you're welcome to join us back at 8 o'clock for that. And if you can't stay back, then I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And tomorrow, by the way, is Shivaratri. It's a very, very special holiday. We'll be having satsang as usual right after Aarti. And then after satsang tomorrow, there will be a very special Shivaratri puja and program back on the banks of Mother Ganga. So when you come tomorrow in the evening, plan to stay with us for a little bit later perhaps than usual.
Om Bhur Bhuva